Hello and welcome again to another episode of A-Dub Club, which we can now see. Today we are going to be talking about Avengers and Avenger-like things.
Yes. So first of all, Avengers was really, really good. Really, really good.
It was amazing.
It was a very good movie.
Definitely amazing action. Because actually talking to Nat, a friend of ours, about this, and he said it was like a good action movie. In like, you know, the kind of like derogatory...
In that sort of like, yeah, good,
it's like good, it's
for
an
action movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like for a girl, but that kind of thing, you know. Which I think is bullshit. I think it was better than just good for an action movie.
Oh, by the way, probably going to be a lot of spoilers in this. Not really that much to spoil, I don't know, in the movie, but if you're the kind of person who cares about that and hasn't seen Avengers yet, maybe this isn't the one to watch.
So, Avengers. Let's see. Things about Avengers. Something I liked about it was really, really, really clever. Just like all like the snappy one-liners and just like the one part where Hulk and Thor, they were battling it out, and then Hulk just smashed Thor. Just clips like that are just hilarious and just make a movie real. Like every movie can have those. Just fantastic.
The best part of the movie, though, I think, is the Loki's giving his big old monologue to Hulk. Like, I'm a god, you can't do anything to me, and then I'll just grabs him by the legs and pow, pow, pow.
Yeah. Something I didn't like about the movie, the aliens.
Yeah.
They just seemed they were
weirdly
weirdly
one
without. I don't know. They weren't described. They were generic, I guess, evil aliens.
The thing that this movie, if there was a flaw to Avengers, it was that the heroes were done so well that when the villains weren't done as well, it stood out more. Yeah. I think, because like you look at some of the phenomenal ones have great villains. Dark Knight, the Joker, and Two-Face are like two of the best villains of all time. Even like Batman Begins, the same way Spider-Man 2 has Doc Ock is great. The first Spider-Man has Harry Osborn is good. And in this one, you've got Loki, who was really fun. He was really fun. He was perfect.
Lacked a certain power.
Yeah, he was a really great sneering black sheep younger brother, but
there seemed like a certain amount of, with that kind of character, kind of a weak character, I would say, you know, like weak in style and personality and general conviction. Like compared to Thor, he's kind of a pussy-ass shit bitch.
Yeah, with Loki, it was... Tom Hiddleston did a very good job of acting, and he's the perfect guy to play that, unless you got like the guy who did Lucius Malfoy would be the only other guy that can do it as well.
Yeah.
But just Joss Whedon's a great writer. Didn't write a great villain in this one. There's this really cool thing that I read yesterday. So there's this guy on Twitter, and then also has another website called Film Crit Hulk. And what he does, he's this guy that's a blogger, but he reviews films as the Hulk. So all of his things are in all caps, and not necessarily, not always the best grammar, but they're usually really interesting, insightful reviews. So he did a piece, the New Yorker hired him to write a piece for them where it's the Hulk reviews Mark Ruffalo's performance as the Hulk. And it was really interesting and insightful and talking about, you know, what makes the Hulk interesting, what makes this version so good, what's lacking in other versions, why weren't the other two movies good. Talking a lot about, like, the idea of assumed empathy. I don't really remember all the stuff that he was talking about, so check that out. But also, this is something that was in that same article that was talking about, you know, how is it that when it's finally revealed, because you keep getting little hints, like, how is it that he's able to keep it under control? How is he able to do all this? And stuff like that. And he finally reveals at the end, it's like, oh, you know how I do it? It's instead of trying to hide it away, I accept it. I'm just angry all the time. Meaning that this is the one version of the Hulk that can control his powers. He is able to not switch. I mean, unless he gets way over the top, but like,
that makes sense.
But like, he is able to be like, hey, Hulk, go do your thing. He's like, okay, I'm gonna do it now. And boom, he can do it and then turn back. And it's really interesting. It'll make for, I actually like the fact that he can control it. It's a cool adjustment rather than like cheap OP. Now he can control his abilities. It's like, it's the next evolution of the characters to make him be able to control them.
But he is kind of cheap and OP. Let's be real. What we're talking about on the way here, Archer guy.
Oh, Hawkeye.
So Hawkeye, he would run out of arrows.
So damn quick. He did run out of arrows, so thank you, Joss Whedon, for finally run out of arrows. Because as I was watching it, like a minute before that happened, I was like, oh, he's going to run out. Then they're not. He would do a second. Yeah, he would run out, and they're not going to do anything about it, and that's going to be lame because it's a superhero movie. They don't care about logic, and they do run out. That being said, it looked like he was carrying like 30 arrows or something like that, and he goes for like a full 20 minutes of shooting. So,
also Captain America and whatever the girl superhero's name is, who I think is
Black Widow.
Black Widow. She's basically just a ninja. Let's be honest. They wouldn't be. I wouldn't.
Scarlett Johansson's
Scarlett
doing a good
Johansson.
job. Not only is she extremely attractive, which is what clearly they expected, she actually was able to pull the character off reasonably well.
Yeah.
I was impressed.
But those characters are kind of, in my opinion, they're kind of useless. Or
Captain
They should
America.
have been useless. I think they should have been useless.
I don't know. I like that Captain America. It was because like I saw Captain America the movie and I thought this sucks. It wasn't horrible, but it was But anyway, I saw that Captain America and I was like, wait, he's going to be in the Avengers? That's going to suck. If you look at it, he's probably the most cynical and disillusioned out of everyone there. And you watch the movie and you're kind of like, yeah, he kind of is. I mean, it was interesting that they made him be a deep character. He was cynical.
I'm talking more about like their skill. Like yeah, sure, there's that. But I mean, like he's just a human being without any he's got a couple of drugs in him, but he shouldn't be that good. That's what I was more talking about.
Oh, okay. We're on very different planes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess part of that's just it's a superhero movie. Although that shield is okay.
The shield was awesome.
The shield's really cool. I like that.
Yeah. The creation and inception of the shield and how there's one thing I hate about the shield though is you cannot. First off, this was in Captain America and it was in I think it was in Avengers. How he uses the shield sometimes as a weapon, he
throws it and comes back.
No, that doesn't work.
But it's cool.
It's really cool. But I wish he had some sort of I wish they gave more of an explanation. But if they just said there was a magnet on there, that was calibrated to some bullshit. Then I would have been happy.
Bullshit would have been nice. The one thing that I'm the most happiest about the Avengers, out of anything else, regardless of the fact that it was a good movie, regardless of the fact that it had good acting, was good writing, stuff like that, is that it was the. If you look at the box office numbers, it is officially, not adjusted for inflation, the biggest opening weekend of all time. Wow. Meaning that you can make a case. It destroyed The Dark Knight. It destroyed Hunger Games, Harry Potter, all of those. Meaning that Joss Whedon just made the biggest movie of all time. Which, for people like us who have been fans of Joss Whedon for a long time and keep seeing him get beaten down by the man, the studio system, no one's going to make a Joss Whedon, he can make good stuff.
Firefly's coming back.
Yeah, it's the studios always say he can make good stuff for a niche audience. He can make stuff for the browncoats, he can make stuff for the geeks, but he can't make stuff for everyone. He made the biggest movie of all time. And it was so many. It was really good. Meaning, he kind of has carte blanche. I feel like he should. If he doesn't have carte blanche now, you can do whatever you want.
Oh yeah.
If he can't do whatever he wants to now, then clearly the studio system is broken because nothing. This has been shifting every so while, but nerd culture is becoming pop culture. It's the idea that because superheroes are now. It used to be that you don't make superhero movies. As recently as 15 years ago, you don't make superhero movies. And then it wasn't really until the Spider-Man movies when you could finally be you can make a superhero movie and it can be actually feel like a comic book and it can be good and people are going to like it. Nerd culture is becoming pop culture, and I think when a movie like this is so super successful, what that means, because even in TV and stuff like that, there is still this sense, it's just that, yes, nerds like it, but nerd stuff is still a niche audience. It's not mainstream yet. It's bullshit. And how can you argue that nerd stuff isn't mainstream anymore when the two biggest movies of all time are one superhero movie, that's Avengers, that is a comic book movie. Dark Knight was one of the biggest movies of all time, but that one's not a comic book movie. It's a superhero movie, but not a comic book movie. It doesn't feel like comic books. It's very dark, very realistic, very gritty. You have Avengers. Avengers feels like a comic book movie in all of the best ways possible.
I feel like there's just one problem is people aren't going to see them necessarily as nerd things that have been adopted into our culture because they are action movies.
That's true.
So they're going to be seeing, it's nerd, but there are explosions. Like Transformers, that's not technically a superhero movie. And I also don't think I would consider that a nerd movie.
True.
But it's still the same level of action as...
And has aliens.
And has aliens and Transformer robots and shit, but yeah.
So it should be a nerd movie, but
it's not.
It's not because it's not good.
Yeah. There's one problem with this is that there have been bad action superhero movies that have done it well. Like I'm pretty
Yes.
sure Captain America did
very well.
It did pretty well, and that
one of the biggest movies.
that is which I do not think it should be. That is an action movie with like just action in it, and this I'm actually relate this back to video games. I would consider this. I just created this term. I wrote an article about it yesterday. The WoW syndrome, where someone created World of Warcraft, revolutionary game for the MMO industry, but it spawned thousands, and I mean thousands, of shitty ass MMOs that tried to copy that formula. The most recent and actually quite successful is Star Wars: The Old Republic, but
not a shitty game.
Not shitty. It's complicated, my feelings towards Star Wars. Well, I don't know.
We can
discuss that later. But so I feel like this has a possibility of having that effect of creating a series of shitty action movies that have lots of explosions and will sell well.
But I feel like that's the way pop culture has always been. You have, and I'm going to relate this back to what I know with music. So you have the Beatles become hugely successful, and what happens? Tons of terrible Beatles knockoffs with the same haircuts and doing the same stuff, and they're just not very good. And then what ends up happening is that even if they do well for a little bit, because they're not as good, they get forgotten. They go away. Nirvana happens. Grunge becomes the biggest thing in the world. Most of the grunge bands suck, and those ones die off. I feel like with everything like this, that if you look at it from far away, yes, what this means is that in the next few years, we're going to be subjected to a lot of terrible action movies.
Which I will all see.
In the same way that, after Spider-Man, you get a lot of bad superhero movies, and then after...
Spider-Man.
Yeah, so... after Blair Witch Project, you have a lot of terrible found footage movies. But then what ends up happening is, if you go 20 years in the future, you'll look back and see, okay, Blair Witch Project was good, and you just forget that all these other movies happened, unless you're joking about them with your friends. They don't become part of pop culture because they're just not good enough. That's what I hope happens. So I agree with you that definitely there is going to be an influx. My fingers are crossed that the wheat separates from the chaff, if that's the right metaphor. The shitty stuff gets wiped away into the sands of time.
Okay, I think that's a good place to end.
It's not really a question this time, and also we didn't get any comments on the last one about Star Wars. Comment stuff. Subscribe, watch more videos, like them, tell us what you want to see. Tell us if you want new formatting.
We just really want this to be shared, liking and subscribing, sure, but we don't get money from that.
Oh, that's fair.
So just share it, because we want people to watch us.
Yeah.
So share it.
Yeah.
AW Club out.